Hey, what's up guys? It's Eli Knight with Knight Jiu-Jitsu, and we're here at Synergy Martial Arts in Newton Falls, Ohio. That's right. And I'm here with Eric Lance. And we just did a seminar over bladed grappling stuff, but we took out this time to make a video. The thing I want to make a video on recently is mount escapes, because I have questions. I have another video that's really popular that people ask different questions about. Most people like it a lot. Some people, were asking basically, well, what happens if the guy's punching you in the face though? Which to me was weird, because that's what the whole premise of that is, and all those mount escapes work if somebody's punching you in the face. The problem is, I don't want to get punched in the face and then decide to escape. So I would prefer, if I can, to escape before the guy starts really laying on a bunch of shots. But I'll take this time at least to illustrate some finer points of that, and then show a couple of the little variations that you can be a little more secure whenever you are doing those mount escapes. People land here first. Most people don't land completely vertically postured up like this, and I don't need to wait for him to get to this posture whenever for him to start landing some different shots from here. So I'd like to take advantage of the fact that he's on both of his hands at this point. So what I'm going to look to do here, now I can come up and try to capture an arm in a lot of different ways. I can try to wrap an arm here. The problem is this is a weak angle for me, and depending on the angle of his arm. So what works pretty good is if I push my head to the outside of his body. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to push my head over here, push his arms over here. Whenever that happens, if he wants to turn back and face me, then he has to let this arm get a little lighter, and then I'm going to push this arm in against him. I want to keep this hand tripped on the wrist. This hand is grabbing by his elbow over here, and I'm trapping his same side leg, and then I'm going to bridge, and I'm going to roll him over this direction here. And then once we get here, now I can start to posture up. I keep this pinned against him. And if it's a striking situation, I can start throwing my own strikes, my own elbows, whatever, trying to split his guard, pass his legs, and then re-engage, or get out of the situation if it's more self-defense based. So again, what's happening on that one here is we get to this position, he's based on his arms. I want to take advantage of the fact that he's on his arms, not allow him to set up, and I'm going to push myself offline like this. I know that this arm has to come up if he wants to turn back and face me, so I grab that wrist whenever he goes to do that. I adjust here on the elbow, I trap the leg, and then I start to look the direction that I'm going to go. I'm going to lift my hips up, and as I do that, I'm going to actually retract my head back this direction during my bridge, which separates his base out a little farther, and it makes it difficult for him to be able to reestablish his base. So I go here, up and over this direction, and then from here I have to decide, well, maybe he's taking a shot, maybe I need to block this arm, or maybe I can start throwing my own shots at this time here, right? So what if I am late though? Because that's what everybody I think is really getting at. It's well, what if you're late and he is able to sit up and start throwing some shots like this? Okay, well, I still need to get his hands down to the mat. I'm not going to try to reach up and try to grab his arms or anything like that, because that's going to be more dangerous. If we're here and he starts sitting up, and he starts throwing some shots, and I start trying to do this number here, or I start trying to hit back with him, he's got a lot of advantages on his side, so I'm not going to try to get into a boxing contest with him right now. So whenever he does start sitting up like this here, and I want to come here, I want to grab some material, if this is more of a self-defense situation here, which it probably is. If this is more MMA and I can't grab material because he doesn't have a shirt on, then I can just kind of hug around the waist, or I can grab the hips and I can go here this way. What I am trying to do though that makes this effective is that whenever he's sitting up here, my elbows stay here braced against his legs whenever I go to do this. It's going to be instinctive for me to try to reach up and cover my face, and I may have to do that for a couple shots, but the way I'm going to really get him down is by going here, grabbing around his hips, blocking here like this on the thighs, and then either using my knee to boost him or bridging my hips here this way and making him go back to his hands. Once he gets back to his hands, push my head to the outside of his body here, then try to get a hold of that arm again here, and then I start to go bridge and roll back over like this. Now, so what's going to mess that escape up really? It's not the fact that he's sitting up, because I can try to get him back down. What's going to mess it up is if he stays down and gets very wide, because now the bridging of my hips becomes less effective whenever his base is spread out really wide like that. So for that reason, we have to have kind of a complement to that escape. The complement to the trapping, bridging, and rolling is the shrimping kind of move that we call elbow escape or a shrimp escape. So if we get to that position though, and he's a little more spread out like this, nice and low on me here. So I still want to take the punches into consideration, because he could, because of his lower platform like this, he could be punching with this hand right here, right? He could be hitting bam like this while he's still down and low, or this other hand here. So the way I'm going to try to negate those punches like that is I'm going to reach around his back, not high where he can wrap my arm, but fairly low. I'm going to keep my head pressed against him, and I'm going to block this arm here as it goes. right? Now, from this, if he goes to retract, I may be able to trap the arm in here like this and then roll. The problem is, because his base is low and wide, he's got a pretty good kickstand over here like this. So it's gonna be a little better for me if I try to shrimp my hips out. I'll hop up 1 second here. What shrimping looks like, if you're not familiar with that, is I'm posting one leg here, and then I'm retracting at the hips. So the post is between shoulder and foot here like this, and I'm lifting my body and I'm pulling my hips out that way. I'm not trying to move my whole body, just my lower half of my body. So what that allows me to do here is whenever we get in this position, I'm keeping myself fairly safe from the punches on both sides, is then from here, I'm gonna shrimp this way here. And whenever I shrimp, I use my elbow, this is why we call this elbow escape. I use my elbow to come down and get this leg inside and around, and then I'm gonna trap his leg. Now, I go back to this as soon as I can because there's still the threat of that punch. The one on this side is a little more difficult for him to use. And then I'm gonna turn and I'm gonna try to finish out the rest of my escape. The rest of my escape is gonna look like this. Rather than going here and hugging anymore, I'm gonna go around his neck. I'm gonna turn on my side like this here and get over on my side. And then I use my hand rather than my elbow on this side to clear the knee. Now, at this time here, a lot of times this knee will get stuck on the way through, but I'm gonna gather all this up here, keeping this nice and tight to me so that this he doesn't have the velocity behind this one to punch me. I keep it here, and I'm gonna plant the foot, scoop my hip toward the side of the trap leg here like this, and then I'm gonna try to get out, close my guard around him like this here, or if I'm fortunate, then whenever I get this leg out here and I get a good enough angle, I can come all the way up here, and then I'm looking for this arm crush on this side. Whenever I'm gonna finish this, just so we can have a submission to end off this video, I want this wrist here pinched between my shoulder and my ear. I'm gonna hug on top of his arm like this, right by the tricep tendon, squeezing my knees like a sandwich, and then I'm gonna crush down that way, finishing the submission. The big things to think about whenever we're escaping the mount position, whether there's strikes included or whether there's not strikes included, regardless of which environment that is. Whenever we're in that position, I want to think about his base. How is he distributing the weight between the points of his base? How can I dismantle that? How can I separate the points of his base? How can I topple his structure? Or how can I crawl out from underneath his structure with that elbow escape or that shrimping kind of move? So again, guys, I appreciate you guys watching. I hope that answers some questions that you guys had. And I'm Eli Knight, Knight Jiu-Jitsu. It's Eric Lance, Synergy Martial Arts. Check him out. Thanks, guys.